couple of months back, I showed you guys a post in the OnePlus subreddit, and this post was interesting because it showed a changelog for a version of ColorOS that was featuring some new AI features. Now, you may be saying to yourself, my OnePlus device runs OxygenOS, not ColorOS, and you would be absolutely correct so long as you are outside of China, because in China, these devices do in fact run ColorOS instead, and there are some relatively large differences here and there. A lot of it's the same, but there are some differences as well. Let's scroll down here and I'll show you why we talked about this. We have a section here called Smart Services, and in this, we see AI Summarizer. We see an AI Object Remover in your photos. We see article summaries. Again, this is interesting because these features were at the time exclusive to ColorOS, and this led me to sort of speculate if and when these features would ever arrive in OxygenOS for OnePlus devices in other regions. And the big interesting thing about this is that the fact that this is ColorOS, and that means it's in China, there's a strong likelihood they're not going to be using Google's stuff to pull off any of these features, which meant that if they're going to replicate these features elsewhere, they're probably going to cooperate with Google to do it, much like Samsung is. Now, since then, we have gotten word that that AI Object Remover is indeed rolling out to other areas, and it is apparently running on an LLM that OnePlus/Oppo, I guess more Oppo and then over to OnePlus, that they have developed themselves. So that's cool. They made their own thing here. But for summarizers, for article summaries, they're probably going to be tapping into Google's technology. And that's where we come to today's news. A couple of months later, the things I speculated would be likely to happen appear to be happening. OnePlus phones could actually beat Pixels by supporting Google's best AI models first. If we drop down here to the content of this article, what we see is this paragraph here where Google announced at their Cloud Next event that OnePlus and Oppo phones are going to be getting the exact features that we're talking about: news summaries, audio recorder summaries, an AI toolbox, and more, this time powered by Google's technology. And they actually go a step further because Oppo and OnePlus have also announced that Google's most powerful AI model, Gemini 1.0 Ultra, will be coming to their phones later on in 2024, and the two companies say they aim to be the first to launch features based on Gemini Ultra on smartphones. So to give a little bit of additional context for people that maybe don't know a lot about Gemini and the different versions of it, you may be hearing this and seeing Gemini Ultra and being like, I don't know what Gemini Ultra actually is. Well, there are three different versions of Gemini. So there's Nano, which is the sort of streamlined, smaller version that can run locally on hardware. We've seen this running on the Pixel 8 devices. We've seen it running on S24 devices, and it will be rolling out to other devices later as well. There's Gemini Pro, which is the basic version of the one that runs exclusively in the cloud. So if you're using Gemini on your phone, I know this is extremely confusing, right? There's Gemini as the large language model, but there's also the thing called Gemini that replaces Google Assistant, and you can ask it questions to do things. It's very confusing. That version of Gemini that you can use as your assistant runs on Gemini Pro, but then there's also Gemini Ultra, which is a more advanced version of that Pro model. So it's still in the cloud, but it's more advanced. It can do more complex things. It has a larger set of skills, basically. It can handle far more inputs. It's complicated. It's just the better version. And apparently that's the version that Oppo and OnePlus want to integrate into their phones this year. Now, bear in mind, if they do go that route and they don't necessarily go with Nano, they're going to need to be internet connected at all times to be able to use these features because, again, this stuff does not run locally. This absolutely cannot just run on your phone. It's got to run in the cloud. So definitely keep that in mind. I think for me, the most interesting part of this is that Oppo and OnePlus seem to be kind of trying to piecemeal this thing. They're not just using Google's tools for everything, right? Like they made their own little LLM for their image editing tools, but then they're using Google's stuff like Gemini Ultra for other things. They're kind of trying to do what they can to get everything up and running as quickly as possible now, But I think it's important to remember that these OEMs are going to be well served to potentially try to develop some of the stuff on their own to avoid that reliance upon Google. Take a look at Samsung, who is relying on Google for a lot of this stuff. Generative edit is really cool, but guys, let's be real, that is just Magic Editor. And there's a reason that after 2025, Samsung has already said that they're going to have to start charging for some of these AI features because it's not going to be free to use Google servers forever. You can use right now Gemini, the standard model Pro, for free. But if you want to use Ultra, they're going to charge you, the consumer, $20 a month. So what might they charge Oppo and OnePlus? And what might Oppo and OnePlus then charge consumers? We have no idea how that's going to go for now. So guys, there you go. Exciting times indeed in the smartphone world. If you were worrying that you spent 15, 16, whatever $100 for a OnePlus Open, and you're worrying that as you watch the Pixel Fold pick up more AI features and the Z Folds of the world pick up more AI features, if you were worrying that your OnePlus Open will be left behind in the dust on these sorts of things, OnePlus and Oppo appear to be quite aggressively trying to catch up. As soon as that new AI object eraser arrives in North America for me to test it and show it to you, I'll be bringing it to you. Right now it's in testing in some other markets, and I'm assuming it'll roll out for everybody very, very soon. So subscribe so you don't miss out on that video. I'll see you on the next one, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.